Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hi friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the opportunity to speak with Benj Cohen, founder and CEO of Proton AI. Proton is a software company that uses the power of artificial intelligence to help distributors discover hidden sales opportunities buried in their company data. Although AI seems a bit futuristic for a legacy industry like distribution, nothing could be further from the truth. As Benj will point out, distributors have so many converging data inputs that the only way to make reasonable predictions requires a sophisticated machine learning approach. There is truly gold buried in our systems. We just need the right tool to extract it. I hope you enjoy our conversation. This episode of Distribution Talk is sponsored by NSQL Distribution Software. NSQL is a fully functional distribution-based software package. I say distribution-based because that's important. Many alternatives out there say they do distribution, but they really aren't very good at it. They're generally watered-down manufacturing packages with a few distribution features tacked on. I only recommend software packages that were purpose-built to serve distribution, and these folks do it very well at a price point many smaller distributors can afford. If you're ready to step up to a fully loaded, scalable distribution package at an affordable price, look no further than NSQL Distribution Software at www.nsql.com. That's INXSQL.com. Well, hey, Benj, hey, thanks for coming on Distribution Talk. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today.
Jason, thanks so much for having me.
Well, hey, with Distribution Talk, I like to go into the background and, sometimes with service providers, and people that are catering to the market, they don't really have as deep a background as you do. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your background in distribution?
Definitely, yeah. So I grew up in my family's dental distribution business. So we sell dental products to dentists all across the US. The business started with my great-grandfather, also Benj Cohen, in 1930 out of a suitcase in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So it's an amazing story. We still have, we claim to have the suitcase. Who knows if it was the actual suitcase, but it's in a case somewhere.
Yes, that family lore that, may or may not be true. So
Exactly. And so my grandfather went into the business, and then his two kids, my dad and my uncle, and they've grown the business from sort of a regional player to a national player. They're the third largest dental distributor in the US, the largest family-owned distributor in that market. So
yeah, I had an opportunity several years ago to spend some time with a dental distributor out in Tacoma, and it probably can't be a huge, a lot of different companies, so you probably do know who they are. The name escapes me at this point, but one of the most fascinating things I saw was, they had this pick to light system in their warehouse, and they had this weird starburst array, and the picker really only had to stay in one place, really maybe a 10-foot wide span, and products were coming to them because they were small and easy. And I don't know if you're familiar with that company, but
the thing about dental that makes it interesting is there's such a wide array of products. So there are the sort of like small consumable items, but also there's, a big x-ray machine or a dental chair or, the motor that drives the handpiece. I mean, so it's kind of an interesting distribution market because it's not just the small consumable products, but it's also these bigger products too that go into construction jobs. And so it's a great business, but it is a relatively small market. I think it's like 10 billion out of the total 6 trillion in the US. So
gotcha.
It's a tiny fraction of distribution.
So how did you get into it? Did you start, like in the warehouse, breaking child labor laws, or how did that work out?
It's interesting. So I got into working in my family's distribution business. So one summer in high school, I was actually rowing for the national team, the junior national team. And
cool.
Rowing is fun, but for me at least, I was like, it was going crazy because all you do is, eat, sleep, row. That's it. And so I was sort of interested in math and computer science, and I got partnered up with someone in the analytics department at my family business. We started working on some basic modeling, and that's really what turned me on to data science and what turned me on to the idea of, leveraging data to achieve a business outcome and being able to apply that specifically in distribution. Then I went to college, ended up studying applied math and data science, and sort of remembered a challenge that I had seen when I was even younger, traveling sort of office to office with my dad, going and visiting
Yeah,
dental offices, which is, I think, a problem that sort of rings true, not just in dental, but in all distribution businesses, which is that when you sell a lot of products, it's hard to figure out what your customers want. And so my family
very
business
true.
sells 400,000 different items. The median Proton customer sells 687,000 different SKUs. And so it's really hard for salespeople to figure out what items their customers want to buy. And so the combination of, hey, can we use some of the sort of cutting edge techniques that I was learning about in school, apply that to the large data set that we already have, and give the output of that to salespeople. It's kind of the insight that led me to start Proton.
You mentioned that you spent some time with data analysts at your company. How many years ago was that, if you don't mind me asking?
When I start, maybe 8 years ago.
Okay. Okay. Because that's really something that, when I was growing up in my family business, we didn't have data analysts, I mean, barely, we couldn't even think about that. And even when I started my consulting career 18 years ago, that was kind of just new. That was really a very new look at a new approach. Some of the larger, ERPs had, they had a couple things, they called it data mining at the time, but anyway, no, it's kind of fascinating that, your company embraced this. And I still see a lot of distributors that don't embrace the analytics side of this information they have. They have these ERPs that are gathering information 24/7, and they just don't know how to dip their net into the data stream. I mean, that's the frustrating thing. So tell me a little bit. Okay, so did you stay in the family business and start Proton, or how did that work?
Yeah. So once I kind of put those two things together, we have a lot of products. It's hard for reps to figure out what their customers need to buy. And by the way, we have a ton of data, as you said, that we're not
Yeah.
leveraging to solve this problem. And there are sort of models we can build that use the data we have to solve the problem that I identified. With that, I got a couple of friends together. I was still in college. We moved into my house in Pennsylvania, right next to Benco's headquarters. And we spent the summer building software for the inside sales team. So that was sort of the inception
Okay.
of the concept. And so we built some software out for them. And again, this is very, very basic, but we ended up
Sure.
increasing their close rates with the initial version of the software by 4 or 5 times. And so we thought,
Okay.
oh man, we are on to something. There's really something
Sure.
here. If this simple, stupid thing we built could have this kind of impact, this is a real problem. We have something that can solve the problem. And it's not just in dental distributors, but all distributors have this problem. We're really onto something.
Yeah.
And so that's really when started working on Proton really as a company outside of my family business. We got our first customer outside of dental. They're an industrial distributor, still a customer today. And we've grown from there.
So when you started down this path and you started to introduce some of these ideas, and really, I'd imagine that you were talking a lot about it before you actually kind of dove in and started building. But how receptive were the salespeople that have been with the company for a long time, be it inside or outside? How receptive were they to this kind of different approach?
It's a great question. And the way that we've thought about that is we've been really focused on building a partnership between our technology and the salesperson, not replacing what the salesperson does. And so with that approach, we found that salespeople are really excited about using our technology, especially expert reps who see it as a way to save time, be more efficient, and sell more. So instead of those reps going in and, combing through order history to figure out what a customer needs to reorder, or perhaps, what couple items they might be interested in buying they're not already buying, we can do that for them
Mhm.
automatically. And now, obviously, there's huge value in that for novice reps as well. But on both sides, we found that reps are excited about working with the technology. And the way that we measure that is we look at how often reps log into the software, and our
Mhm.
sort of virality score, which is like daily active users to monthly active users, how many people log in on a daily basis out of the people who log in on a monthly basis, is about the same as Facebook. So people are using the software a lot. And so,
Interesting. Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah, yeah.
we can talk about, oh, it's a partnership. At the end of the day, it only works if it really is a partnership and reps actually like using the software. And
Right.
that's something we track closely, and is a number that we're really proud of.
Ben, just like, talking about CRM with reps, it's everybody complains about utilization rate. It's like, well, these folks aren't, they don't want to go in and use it. So is it really a great technology for the rep, to use CRM? Debatable, and I think to your point, if they're not logging in, then it was not a great idea. Then it's not a great investment.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think the challenge with traditional CRMs is that they are just taking from the rep but not giving.
Great point. Yeah.
And that's where we think our approach to sort of sales enablement as a whole is really unique, because we are tracking all the same data that CRM tracks, contacts, pipeline, all those basic pieces of information, but we're using that data to feed the AI that actually gives to the rep. So instead of just taking, we're giving them opportunities, we're telling them where to go next, and we're helping them do their job more efficiently. And so that makes a big difference in terms of getting adoption.
A couple of clarification points here. I think people hear artificial intelligence or AI, and they get these, really far-reaching thoughts, or that, they're afraid that, the robots are going to come and take over. Could you just kind of clarify what we're really talking about and what Proton's approach to AI in distribution is all about?
Yeah. So definitely we're very far away, in my opinion, from AI taking over the world, especially taking over the world of distribution. So
sure,
on the most simple level, what we do is we ingest all of a distributor's customer data, product data, transaction data, quote data, online browse data, truly everything we can get about what a distributor's customers are doing. Then we've got AI models that churn through that data to understand patterns across customers, products, and reps. And then we use the outputs of that to make the rep smarter about what the customer needs to buy and make the customer smarter about what they're looking for. And so to your point about kind of what the AI is doing, we're basically mining all the data for patterns. Now, there's a simple way to do that, in a spreadsheet. The models that we've built are looking at, they have hundreds of millions of parameters. They're deep learning models finding extremely sophisticated patterns, nonlinear patterns. We're able to understand text data, which is difficult. And so the models that we built are really robust, but on a basic level, we're just finding patterns in the data that already exists. And that's why it works so well in distribution, because distributors have so much data, but we're just not using it.
Right. No, absolutely. I think that's just, that's one of the worst parts about, the utilization of any ERP or any technology inside distribution is that we don't use it to any degree of capacity. I mean, that's just, just not utilizing what's sitting out there, ripe to be plucked.
Well, I think especially when it comes to sales tools, I think that's true. And I think the reason for that is that no one has built a tool set for distribution sales. Like, people are trying to we use a CRM at Proton, and that CRM was purpose built for companies like us. We sell one or two products. We move those deals through a pipeline. All the CRM companies have built their products for companies like them. No one has built a purposeful solution for distributors. And so I think we shouldn't be surprised that it hasn't been adopted widely. I don't, I can only, I only know my family business, but we're certainly, tech forward and all that, but it's just hard to get people to, adopt something that's just not the right fit. It's just not built for the type of sales model that distributors have. We don't sell one product. We sell lots of products. We don't sell to just a couple customers. We sell to tens of thousands of customers. And by the way, we sell through e-commerce. We sell through marketing channels. We sell through inside sales, outside sales, customer service, vendor managed inventory, EDI. I mean, it's just complicated and different, and no one's built a tool set for that model. And so I don't think we should be surprised or beating ourselves up as distributors saying, "Oh, geez, we're backwards. We don't think technically." It's not. It's about the tool set that's out there, and it's just not right for the market.
Well, I think you made an earlier point that said that particular technology is not giving back to that salesperson. They can't see a quick, tangible benefit out of that. And so I think that, your adoption rate obviously is going to drop down as well. Bad tools and no perceived benefit.
Exactly.
Why? Yeah, why get in? Why go home and knock some stuff into this silly system if I'm not getting anything out of it? So just again, thinking about these data streams and data mining and all these different expressions. How is AI in general? How is that different from BI? I mean, that's what I grew up, around, again, I use that probably rather antiquated term, data mining, but that's what it was called when I kind of saw it first. And I thought, wow, this is pretty fantastic. But then it kind of morphed into those business intelligence packages out there. But how is AI different than BI?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the difference between AI and BI is backward looking. So it's looking at kind of what's already happened and displaying that out for
Mm-hmm.
the end user. So BI system might display what are the most popular products, or what items has this customer bought recently, or trends in buying patterns. AI is
Mm-hmm.
forward looking. So we take that same data, and then by understanding all the historical patterns, can understand, make a forecast or a prediction about what's going to happen. So instead of saying what are the most popular items, we can say what item this customer is going to buy next. Or instead of
Mm-hmm.
displaying an order history, we can say here are the items this customer is due to reorder. So it's kind of able to look ahead instead of just displaying what's already happened.
And I think it's interesting, just kind of pushing forward a little bit, for example, like VMI programs that you would set up with a customer. It seems to me like this forward looking approach is going to just really increase your SKU count opportunities within an existing VMI package. Am I tracking right here?
Yeah, I mean, I think the general idea would be that as a distributor who adopts this type of technology, you'll be able
Mm-hmm.
to sell more of the right stuff to your existing customers and sell
Mm-hmm.
more of the right stuff to new customers too. Is that kind of where you were going with that?
Yeah, yeah. I was just thinking that, again, if I'm looking at a BI package, I mean, I hate to say it, but in many cases, it's kind of a glorified query or report writer.
Yep.
It's looking back, as you said. But then, thinking about where do I go next? I think what I'm hearing is that is where AI really excels, is that it helps us figure out where am I going to go next, and really it helps me become more efficient as a salesperson, or trying to develop penetration into these accounts, if that's what we're going to be looking at.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of using kind of a BI tool to, as a salesperson, try to figure out where that next opportunity is, whether it's with a new customer or an existing customer, AI can help guide that person to that next opportunity so they can spend
Mm-hmm.
more time actually selling and less time kind of as a data analyst.
Gotcha. So if I'm looking at this, just kind of from our traditional distribution sales approach, not counting all the different things that we're getting into today, with e-commerce packages and that side, do you feel like interaction with, a product like yours is better suited to an inside sales team or to an outside sales team, or does it really matter?
Yeah, so the way that we think about it is, as I mentioned before, distributors are different for three reasons. Number one, they sell a lot of products. Number two, they sell to a lot of customers. Solving for that is about using AI to kind of map customers and products together to figure out what
Mm-hmm.
products the customer needs to buy next, and then being able to make those recommendations. The final part that makes distributors different is that they're fundamentally like cross-channel businesses, right? They sell through
Right.
tons of different sales channels, outside sales,
Yep.
inside sales, as you mentioned, customer service, e-commerce, marketing. And so the way that we think about it at Proton, to build the best possible solution for distributors, it has to be an omni-channel solution. We've got to be
Mm-hmm.
able to make these kinds of recommendations no matter where the customer is interacting with the distributor. And the recommendations look different. So it's not like you just make the same things in all the places, but you really have to be able to think about, if for a distributor to make this successful, from what we've seen, the most
Mm-hmm.
successful folks think about it from this sort of omni-channel perspective. How do we use AI to connect all of our channels together and make them all smarter about what the customer needs? So what that looks like for inside sales is different than what it looks like for outside sales. And it's different than what it looks like for e-commerce. But fundamentally, I think it's got to be everywhere for it to be successful. We have seen though that distributors, it's easier to get traction with new software with an inside sales team than it is an outside sales
Mm-hmm.
team. So it's fundamentally sort of omni-channel, but in order to get started, we found it's easier for distributors to get traction, we found, with this type of technology with their inside teams.
Yeah, I would think so. And I think that that's really, I guess I was just thinking about a client, that they're an industrial distribution client. And rather than having a lot of, feet on the street and a lot of people, traveling all over the country, they really concentrated on that inside sales team, frankly, because the information was always around them. And I think that your technology really kind of supports that same ideology. And this was a highly successful organization. I mean, highly profitable, very successful. I guess I just see that as a benefit, or you'd see greater adoption, I think, or as you said, traction with someone who is, intimately working with the software on on a moment by moment basis.
Definitely. I think the other thing that's interesting kind of about adopting technology like this is that it can make an inside sale. I think that the difference it can make for an inside salesperson is bigger than the difference it can make for an outside salesperson. And so the reason for that is, like, an outside salesperson, they go to the customer, they see, oh, geez, you are out of stock of this thing. I'm going to reorder it for you because I can literally see it. Or
Right.
you're meeting with the customer face to face. You have so much context, but obviously that visit is really expensive. And so, using a tool like ours for those reps, definitely helpful and valuable in helping those reps become more proactive sellers and better serve their customers, et cetera, sell more stuff. But for an inside seller, they don't have all that rich context that the outside seller has. And so when they can adopt a tool like Proton or use AI in that way, we can help provide some of that context for them automatically. So in the same way that the outside seller goes in and sees that something is out of stock, the inside seller using Proton looks at Proton and sees, oh, they're probably out of stock of the same item that they would have identified if they were in person, but they just didn't need to be there. And so there's a greater opportunity for enablement with those inside sellers because they just don't have quite the same context that the outside sellers do.
Benj, I think, kind of taking this a little more philosophical and looking where we are headed, in distribution from a traditional inside versus outside sales. Do you think that the last, 18 to 20 months has created a greater, I think it's created more of a hybrid approach in outside sales, that people have become familiar with not being able to technically, go face to face with people. They've become familiar with Zoom and different ways of approaching where they are seated and they have access to information. But do you feel like that instance really kind of gives you this golden opportunity for adoption in technologies that maybe would not have been comfortable, 18 to 24 months ago?
Definitely. I mean, it's an opportunity, not really from the I think I understand what you're saying from a comfort perspective. I think that exists.
Yeah.
But the opportunity is on the distributor side. Like, if you don't adopt a technology like this, it is hard to scale up an inside sales team either from scratch, or new outside reps come in, they can't visit their customers, they don't have the context, they don't know the industry. Yeah. If you don't have something like this, it's just really hard. We talk to distributors, they say, yeah, our reps, we plan on them taking 2 years to ramp up. I mean, that's incredible that it would take that long. And so I think, yes, the opportunity, there's a bigger opportunity because folks are more open to technology and they're behind computers more often. And that's awesome.
Sure.
But I really think there's the opportunity exists more on the distributor side, just to be able to take advantage of this and take advantage of sort of the business impact.
Yeah. So speaking of that, is there kind of a sweet spot in size or number of products, for someone to take this on? Because again, I think that, terms like AI are daunting. They're a little scary to people, who maybe have been technology adverse. But is there a size of organization this tends to be, easier to adopt?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we've not seen. So we work with distributors anywhere from 50 million up to, we have customers that are, billions and billions in sales. So we've seen success kind of at the smaller end and at the larger end. The thing to remember is distributors already have a ton of data. And so that actually makes adopting technology like this pretty easy once you have the model set up. So we've sort of built the technology. All we need is the distributor's data. And so that makes it really easy to get started. And then I think all the typical change management best practices come into play. So, think big, start small. Don't try to roll it out to every single person at your company on the first day. And we help with all of that, but it's surprisingly easy to get started. And we've seen success really all across the size range.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that easy to get started. Again, there's that daunting, do we have to be data scientists? Do we have to employ a bunch of data scientists to make this thing work? But you're saying that no, the system is actually fairly user-friendly. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So the reason that I started the business was because I felt that if my family business didn't have the technology that we were building, couldn't solve this, we have a lot of products, we don't know what to sell to our customers problem, then Amazon would solve that problem better at some point, and it'd be hard to be a dental distributor or be a distributor in general. And so the reason that I sort of started the business was to try to make it easy for my family business, but also distribution in general, to be able to leverage the same kinds of technologies that Amazon uses without having to have a data science team. And I mean, Amazon has 1,000 employees who just work on their search. I mean, it's unbelievable. And that's certainly it's not feasible to do that in most distribution businesses. And so the idea here is make it as easy as possible for distributors to get started without having to have massive teams like that. And as we grow, we can grow our team and continue to invest in our product and build sort of this platform for all distributors to be able to compete with places like Amazon.
I appreciate that, because that's definitely a fear. That's one of the great fears of distribution. And, you always get that phone call, well, do you think Amazon's going to take over this or that? And, as much as I can say, who knows? I also think that there are places that, yes, they're much more of a target. But if they are not trying to think like a bigger player, that you are going to get swallowed up. And I really don't care what the industry or the vertical that you're serving, that if you are not forward thinking and you're not looking at something that is going to help you, drive this penetration into existing customers and frankly, make you attractive to new customers, you will get left in the dust. I mean, you will go extinct. I mean, that's just the way it is.
And it may not be Amazon, right? So, I mean, the pipe market, for example, Amazon's not, they don't have their own trucks delivering pipe to construction sites. I don't think it's just Amazon, but I think there's a huge opportunity to learn a lesson from Amazon, which is that, every business is a technology business. And so whether it's Amazon or someone else, this is the next sort of wave of technology, and the folks that adopt it are going to be big winners. And we've already seen that in the B2C space. And so it's sort of happening here now. And so whether it's Amazon or a marketplace startup in your particular market, distributors need to be ready to compete with sort of this next generation of digital first competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. You had mentioned that the sweet spot or the clients that you work with generally start about 50 million. And I've seen this over time that, generally these types of advanced technologies start with bigger distributors, but then they find their way into that, 20 to 30 million or even less than that. Do you see that that's a direction that Proton will be going, is really trying to serve these, and that's where honestly, there's a boatload of those $20 million to $30 million distributors out there?
Yeah, definitely. It's a good question. So I think in the long run, we'll definitely be able to serve smaller and smaller distributors as the AI technology gets more mature and less expensive.
Yeah.
But in terms of having enough data, smaller distributors certainly have enough. And that's really the key thing about what makes our business work, is that we're starting in a market where every distributor has the data that's required to make a system like this run. Even if we all think our data is messy, it's not exactly right. We really haven't run into any issues there. And so even smaller distributors do have the data. I think over time, we'll be able to sort of go down market and be able to serve those smaller distributors, but not yet.
Yeah, I've seen this one of the services I was thinking about was like pricing services, for example.
Yeah.
You saw them, be really prevalent in the larger distribution, and then they've migrated down to where a point, that again, that sub $20 million distributor can take advantage of these, and they've developed light programs and things like that for them.
Totally.
So it's just, that's interesting. And I think you're right that that's the evolution eventually, to that point. Because, distribution is one of those things that, it regenerates itself. You have an employee that says, I don't like the way my boss is doing things. I'm going to go start my own company. And it regenerates. So there'll be a lot of these smaller entities, always available to serve in the future. So,
Definitely.
before I let you go here, since you are kind of on the bleeding edge here, what do you see as a really kind of a far out application for AI in this technology in the distribution space? I mean, is there anything that you kind of say, oh, okay, we're not there today, but man, I think we're going to be able to get there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So where I see things going, and it sounds far out, but this is kind of the vision of the way that we're thinking about our business. So once you understand what customers need, which products, and you can enable all the sales team with that, and enable the website with that, and sort of grow sales the way that we're doing now, the next step is to turn distributors into kind of a marketing platform. So in the same way that Google sells ads when you search for something, distributors can sell access to their audience, which is the B2B audience, a really valuable audience. And through kind of an AI platform like Proton, be able to promote certain products and actually charge for that. So Amazon does this today on the B2C side, and their advertising business is one of their fastest growing segments. And basically they are, I believe, if they haven't done this already, at some point in the future, they'll make more profit from advertising than they will from first party sales. And I think the same model can be applied in distribution. So once you sort of enable all the sales channels with sort of AI guided directed selling, you can start to open up a marketplace for manufacturers to bid to promote their products through distributors. And I think that's a potentially EBITDA doubling opportunity. So that's kind of where we see things going in the long run.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes a ton of sense. And as you just mentioned, though that's a so much more net profitable type of business than distribution, that absolutely that would be a welcome bang to the bottom line. Well, hey, Benj, where can someone find out more about Proton? If they're interested and they kind of like what they hear, how do they find out about you all?
Definitely check out our website, Proton, Proton.ai, or you can feel free to send me a note directly. My email is Benj, BENJ @proton.ai. And there's more information on our website, case studies and stuff like that. Feel free to reach out. Perfect. We love talking about how this technology can help the industry that we're from.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I'll make sure that all that information is in the show notes so people can find it there. But hey, I just want to thank you for the time, man. This was really an enlightening discussion. And just again, I appreciate I really enjoy listening to next generation or people who have been in these businesses for a long time, family members who see a problem in these companies and say, I am going to use new cutting edge technology to create something different. I'm fascinated by it. I love seeing this. So Benj, I wish you all the greatest success in the world on this.
Thank you so much, Jason. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. Take care. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider hitting that subscribe button. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area on your podcast application or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by Andrea Klunder and Edwin Ruiz at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, The Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.